Good day, everyone. Welcome to Real Conservative Headline News. I'm your host, Nathaniel Rajkumar. Starting off locally here in Trinidad and Tobago, former Mayaro MP Rushton Parry has accused the current administration of applying double standards on freedom of speech, arguing that the government's recent actions mirror the complaints once made by the opposition when it sat on the other side of Parliament. He's 100% correct, One of the members of the famous five is 100% correct. My fellow UNCs used to be complaining about it as well. As a matter of fact, the UNCs used to be complaining about that as well. I identify as an independent. In a detailed public statement, Parry said his review of political developments between February 16, 2016 and February 16, 2026 identified at least 6 instances in which the then opposition accused the PNM government of restricting or manipulating political speech and media access. But it was true, though. Even in the case of the ground report, that the ground report was wrongfully targeted just because they were holding the PNM accountable. Without naming specific officials, he pointed to a recent controversy involving a state broadcaster and the muting of politically charged content, as well as a radio station incident in which a manager was allegedly heard on a live feed claiming an artist's microphone has been muted. He maintained that freedom of expression cannot be selective or dependent on who holds office, urging the government to act publicly, transparently, and consistently in defense of constitutional rights. Now, before I go on to my response, I honestly don't believe that Kamala Persaud-Bissessor or any of the high-ranking members of the United National Congress was responsible for what took place there. I do believe that the appointed individuals as board members that should have never been there. My response: the former member of the famous five in the UNC is correct. I don't believe that there was a technical glitch when TTT suddenly lost audio when a particular Calypsonian was performing his song. Certain individuals who were appointed to be in high positions in that state-owned media house should be removed immediately if we truly value free speech. How many more of PNM's draconian measures will the Kamala Persaud-Bissessor administration adopt, even though if it's indirectly? Because honestly speaking, in this case, I don't think Kamala Persaud-Bissessor is aware of what took place there or the intention. I'm beseeching the leader of our nation to restore UNC's traditional, democratic, fair, and balanced style of governance. Don't go anywhere yet, people. There's still a whole lot more local, regional, and international news to discuss. 3 house fires which occurred in a week, including one which led to the death of a homeowner, have reignited calls for a fire station in the Princestown, Moruga district. Let's hope that the UNC government will ensure that the people of that area are provided with a fire station soon, very soon. The latest blaze left Anthony Jacob, his wife, and 12-year-old son counting their losses after the upper floor of their 5th Company Village home was destroyed while they were at church on Carnival Sunday. Hopefully, at least they will receive some sort of assistance from the government. Unlike PNM, we have seen recently a lot of individuals that ended up losing their homes and so forth due to natural disasters were assisted by the government. Now, a fire might be a little more complicated. We need to have an investigation to determine what caused the fire and so forth. But nevertheless, let's see where things go. And hopefully these individuals will be assisted in some way or the other. Stay tuned for regional news up next. Minister of Housing, Land Management, Urban Development and Informal Settlement Upgrading and Member of Parliament for South Windward, Andrew John, says his ministry's focus for the 2026 budget will emphasize the holistic development of individuals while fostering positive national growth in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Contributing to the 2026 budget debate, Minister John explained that the ministry's agenda will be grounded in the pillars of resilience, climate adaptation, the development of a modern green economy, and the 4 economic pillars championed by the New Democratic Party during the general election campaign. In other words, they tend to keep their promises that were made during the election period.
Modern green economy facilitated by the innovation of the processes and functions within our digital spaces. such that the environment is created where persons are less reliant on the state to provide all their needs. Rather, the individual is encouraged to be independent and entrepreneurial. Now, I want us to take a moment and think of housing in this holistic manner going forward. Let us look at how we could build a holistic housing policy. Now, when I get there now, what I realized that a housing policy was started in 2020. And for some reason, the previous administration refused to follow through with it. You see why we need to go back green and stronger is simply because we are a small island developing state prone to disasters. And therefore, we need to build to mitigate this kind of disaster.
The Jamaica Civil Aviation Authority has pushed back against claims that the Jamaica's general aviation sector is in collapse, most likely by the opposition members in Jamaica, of course. Outlining legislative reforms, licensing growth, and ongoing infrastructure interventions, which signals an evolving, not dying industry, of course, according to those officials. The government of Guyana has moved to advance its aviation expansion agenda with the issuance of requests for proposals for the development of 2 new municipal airports at the Lethem in Region 9 and Rose Hall in Region 6 development. I just love to see the development taking place in Guyana, and it really is at an exponential rate. According to official tender documents issued by the Ministry of Public Utilities and Aviation, the projects will be executed under an engineering procurement, construction, and finance model, signaling the administration's push to modernize regional air transport infrastructure while attracting private investment. And when we're talking about the administration, we're talking about the Irfan Ali PPP Civic Administration. International news now. U.S. Vice President Vance on negotiations with Iran says, one thing about the negotiation I will say this morning is, in some ways it went well. Yeah. They agreed to meet afterwards, but in other ways it was very clear that the president has set some red lines that the Iranians are not yet willing to actually acknowledge and work through. It's not about that yet. They never will, J.D. Vance. My response, how many more times? We're talking about a year now, people. How many more times will the Ayatollah agree to hold discussions with the USA only to end up rejecting any peace deal presented to them? Been there, done that. President Trump, my goodness, they'll keep playing these delaying games or tactics until Trump leaves office in 2028. I hope Israel makes it clear to Trump that these negotiations cannot go on for much longer. Get the job done, President Trump. You made a promise to the Iranian people, the citizens, that help was on the way. Not these continued negotiations that have been taking place for a year now.
The United States has certain red lines. Our primary interest here is we don't want Iran to get a nuclear weapon. We don't want nuclear proliferation. If Iran gets a nuclear weapon, there are a lot of other regimes, some friendly, some not so friendly, who would get nuclear weapons after them. That would be a disaster for the American people, because then you have these crazy regimes all over the world with the most dangerous weapons in the world, and that's one of the things the president has said he's going to prevent. Now, we would very much like, as the president has said, to resolve this through a conversation and a diplomatic negotiation, but the president has all options on the table. And, one thing about the negotiation I will say this morning is, in some ways it went well. They agreed to meet afterwards, but in other ways it was very clear that the president has set some red lines that the Iranians are not yet willing to actually acknowledge and work through. So we're going to keep on working it, but of course the president reserves the ability to say when he thinks that diplomacy has reached its natural end. We hope we don't get to that point, but if we do, that'll be the president's call.
Now for the interesting facts segment, a Belgian non-profit group called Apopo is training African giant pouched rats to help locate earthquake survivors. Led by behavioral scientist Dr. Donna Keane, The project equips the rats with small prototype backpacks fitted with a microphone, camera, and location transmitter. In training, they learn to navigate through simulated rubble, identify a victim, pull a switch to signal a fine, and return to their handler for a full reward. Wow! They have enough sense to know to pull the switch when they find the individual. Of course, they're being trained to do it, but still amazing. The idea builds on a purpose proven hero rats already used to detect landmines and even tuberculosis. Because rats are small, agile, and highly trainable, they can move through tight, unstable spaces that humans and dogs can't safely access. For now, the work remains in research and testing stages, but the goal is clear. One day, these tiny rescuers could help save lives. Even more evidence once again, in my opinion, that animals don't just exist or function with instinct, but they definitely have souls, people. They do not have spirits like human beings, but they definitely have souls. Closing off now with a travel segment. The Solovetsky Islands in Russia's White Sea are a UNESCO World Heritage Site, offering a profound blend of Arctic nature and tragic history, accessible by boat from Kem or Belomorsk. Key attractions include the massive 15th century fortified monastery, ancient stone labyrinths, and serene forested landscapes, perfect for hiking and spotted beluga whales or seals. Definitely a place that sounds lovely to visit, in spite, of course, of the type of politics in Russia at this point in time. Folks, that brings us to the end of today's news headlines. Thanks again to everyone who continues to support my content. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Stay blessed and stay safe most of all. In Jesus' name.